रोशनी का कारवां।
This podcast is brought to you by Barrier Break Solutions Private Limited and Score Foundation.
ये है रोशनी, रोशनी, रोशनी का कारवां, रोशनी। Eyeway, ये है रोशनी का कारवां।
Hi, my name is George Abraham and welcome to Eyeway Conversations. My guest today is Apoorv Kulkarni, who is a qualified chartered accountant, an MBA from the United States, and he is the head accessibility and inclusion with Ola Mobility Institute. So Apoorv, you were talking to me about a research project that you were on recently, and the report has just been published. It has something to do with accessible transportation. So tell us a little bit about this report.
On November 16th, we released a report titled On the Move, Urban Travel Experiences of Persons with Disabilities and a Path to Build More Inclusive Transport Systems. What this report essentially does is it takes a look at the travel experiences of people, men and women both, who live with a disability, how it affects their journey, what are the nuances. And we've done that, quite comprehensively. So we've partnered with 8 organizations with a collective experience of over 200 years. Through them, we have conducted semi-structured interviews and focus group discussions of men and women living with disability across 3 groups. So locomotor disability, visual disability, and hearing loss. And we've done this for 3 modes of transport, which would be urban rail, which this include metros and local trains, the bus systems, and intermediate public transport, which would include your taxis and autos, both the old-fashioned ones that you hail on the street, and the more contemporary ones, which you hail using a mobile phone. This report was released by Honorable Minister Ramdas Athavaleji, who is from the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, and we've kind of been really fortunate that we could cover these nuanced journeys, make recommendations to improve accessibility of transport systems, and we're really happy that it has been received very, very open-heartedly by the government, by civil society, by likes of World Bank and United Nations and others. So we really hope that this report sets the stage to make urban transport systems more accessible for persons with disabilities.
I'd be interested in knowing as to what were some of the key findings by different disability groups to all these 3 modes of transport that you talk about.
We've seen that there is some effort done to improve accessibility of transport systems here and there. Right? So you do have, some metro stations becoming accessible. You do have, some buses being wheelchair, friendly, and so on. But what we really found out through our interviews and through our focus group discussions is that these siloed approaches don't yield a full benefit. It doesn't yield the complete return on investment. And that's because it's not just important to make one section of a trip accessible. You really need to take a holistic approach. You need to look at it from end to end, from door to door. And so when you think about transport accessibility improvements, you have to think about everything from, the planning stage, the stage wherein you, get to the boarding station, you actually board the vehicle, the in-transit phase, the part where you would want to get off the vehicle safely, paying for the trip, and if a situation so arises, the ability to file a complaint and get it redressed satisfactorily. So we need to make all of these elements accessible, and we need to take a holistic approach when it comes to accessibility within transport systems. And that's one of the highlights that we have tried to convey.
While you did speak to people, stakeholders who are people with disability, did you also speak to stakeholders who are service providers? That's one. And did you also get a chance to bring service providers and end users together on the same table and interact?
This is a very good next step. This report was primarily a perception study. Right? We wanted to get the voice of the user in, really understand those nuances. But we also realized that we need to get voices of from the other side also heard. We've had peer reviewers across the board, from civil society, from funding organizations such as World Bank, from academia and universities, go through our findings and really comment on that, help us understand, you know, how the experiences documented are affected by practicalities, etc. And we try to incorporate all of those findings in the report. But as we go ahead, I think there's no way but to get these stakeholders on a common platform so that they can exchange their views and help each other understand the boundaries within their working in the expectations that are most important for those people, the needs that are most important, and that's the way to bring about improvements within accessibility and inclusion of mobility systems.
If you know of anyone with vision impairment who needs guidance on living life with blindness, please share the Eyeway National Toll-Free Helpline number 1-800-5320-469. The number is 1-800-5320-469.
Moving away from the report, Apoorv, you have been visually impaired for a long time in your life. When did it actually first occur to you or your family that you had an eye problem? What exactly is the diagnosis?
I'm diagnosed with a condition called macular dystrophy. What it basically does for me is it restricts my central vision. These symptoms came about when I was roughly 7 years of age, second standard of my schooling. For me, I think the loss in eyesight was pretty rapid. I'd say within a period of 3 to 6 months, there was significant vision loss for me, to the extent that I wasn't able to function independently in the classroom, in the sense that I wasn't able to read from the blackboard, even if I was to sit really close to it. And so I grew up in a town called Nagpur. It's in Maharashtra. We really did not have a lot of understanding within the school system, within the administration, to help navigate these life-changing moments. Right. So my parents took me to doctors. We ran multiple tests, and we tried multiple avenues, everything from allopathy, Ayurveda, homeopathy, and whatnot, right? To really get a sense of what's happening, and is there a remedy to it. Eventually, we were told that this is the condition. It's a irreversible condition.
So I believe, Apoorv, there was a point in time that your family decided to shift from Nagpur to Mumbai. Was it a strategic decision, and how did it happen?
So this was around about, I think, year 2000. I was about to enter ninth standard, which is one of those critical years. And we moved from Nagpur to Mumbai because we believed that the infrastructure and support system was more equipped to support people like me and my younger brother, who also lives with a similar disability. It was a strategic decision because for my father, who was a scientist working with the National Environmental Engineering Research Institute, it was quite a dramatic move. He was doing really well for himself and was on a path to really become the head of the institution in some time. He made that strategic sacrifice because he wanted to set us up for success as individuals. My mother, fully supported him, and it's somewhat tricky to make the transition from a tier 2 city to a metropolis like Mumbai, right? So he did that, and he made a complete transition in his career from being a scientist and an engineer to being a lecturer, but that also allowed us to get access to school systems which was more empathetic, more mature in terms of developing a support system around us.
To support our work with the blind and visually impaired, you can visit the donate page on our website www.scorefoundation.org.in. Please note www.scorefoundation.org.in.
You chose to take up chartered accountancy. That's an area which most visually impaired people might want to stay away from.
So after my 10th standard examination, we were, like any other student, I was confronted with this question of what stream of education would I want to go in. And I was fascinated by business, economics, commerce, etc. So that's the route that I went in. And my advisors, my mentors, introduced me to chartered accountancy, and so that's really what that was a default choice, really. And I'll probably kind of credit this mentality to, again, my parents, because they really instilled that belief in me to take on bold endeavors, bold challenges. And my father says this. I don't know if it's his original line or he has adapted it from somewhere. He basically, said to us, "Not failure, but low aim is crime," and that really motivated me to take this up.
So I've actually met people who've taken several attempts to clear these exams. How many attempts did you take?
You're gonna embarrass me, George. I think I managed to clear all my examinations in first attempt, except for the second level of examination. There are three levels. The second level, I think I took one more attempt. But yeah, largely was really fortunate enough to be able to get through them in the first go. And obviously, was very, very supported by friends, family. I really couldn't have done it without them. Teachers who guided me. I think the success is as much theirs, if not more, as mine.
So once you cleared your CA, did you actually practice as a chartered accountant or work for somebody?
So I did my articleship with KPMG, which is one of the big four firms, and managed to land a really coveted spot over there. I worked in their audit practice within the financial services line of business. And once I was able to clear my final exam, I continued with them, basically. And I think spent about, if I'm not mistaken, 5 years over there, roughly, doing audit and consulting and what have you. Really fun times.
What prompted you to want to do an MBA? And you've done your MBA from Stanford. So what was that shift like?
After spending a few years in the firm, in KPMG, I was feeling like I wanted to try out something new. So I decided to, take another leap of faith and joined a startup which produced audiobooks in India. And I had really seen how technology and audio was really instrumental in shaping my journey. I wanted to be a part of the team that democratized that experience. So that's how I joined this company called Bookstock. And when I was working with them, we were really trying everything, trying all sorts of tactics, techniques to produce audiobooks, to sell them, to get them in the hands of user, get feedback from them, from the users, learn, iterate, and so on. And that's the time that I realized, I think, that hey, there is a lot about business that I don't think I know very well. And you could imagine how that would be for a young person who has managed to scale some heights and um, has been a consultant and has really had his confidence built up and again walking around with a chip on his shoulder, that I really know a lot of things, and that was really a humbling experience. So that's what prompted me to really take a hard look and say, hey, listen, if you don't know as much about business as you would like, and you would want to understand how various facets of business work together, would you think it would be worthwhile to go and do an MBA? And that thought occurred to me, I consulted my mentors, I consulted my parents back home, and it sounded like a good approach. So applied to a bunch of schools and was fortunate enough to be accepted at Stanford, which was really my choice school, and learned a ton about everything, like all the complexities of the business, how the system works together, everything from production to sales to relationship management, design, a bunch of stuff. So that I think really enriched my perspective as a result of that experience.
Most visually impaired or blind students that I know who have gone to the US to study further tend to stay on. What prompted you to come back to India?
That's a good question, George. Going abroad and studying was something that I had never imagined growing up. I mean, forget going abroad and studying. Going abroad was a concept that I had never imagined. The family and the people that we grew up with, we did not have many examples or role models for ourselves. So this was really a reach goal for us, and for a variety of reasons, right? I mean, the goal is pretty audacious. It involves a lot of financial commitment. It requires you to suspend your career, which means you are suspending your source of income for a while. These were similar challenges that I was presented with. I think what made all the difference for me is I managed to secure a fellowship from Reliance Industries. It's called Reliance Stanford Dhirubhai Ambani Fellowship. And under this fellowship, there's a competitive process. They choose up to 5 people to sponsor every year to go and do an MBA at Stanford. And I was, I was fortunate enough to be one of the beneficiaries. The only requirement of that fellowship is that you come back and work in India, and so that's one of the reasons that I came back. But there's also another reason, which is I have always been thankful for the resources that the country has bestowed on me. And I was very clear that we need to come back and make the changes that we wish for ourselves. So for example, when I went to the US and I saw how transport systems were far more robust, as you put it, I was completely blown away by how that really opened up my life, what opportunities it kind of made available to me. And I was very keen that those similar interventions be brought about here in India. So that's one of the reasons that I came back. So it's really one of those belief systems that guides you, and it's, as they say, it's really incumbent on the best of us to serve the rest of us. And that's also a reason why I came back, and I'm happy that I came back and I get an opportunity to build systems and infrastructure over here in India, which would set up many others for success and to soar greater heights.
On the one hand, the fellowship required you to come, and on the other hand, you actually wanted to plow back what you learned and what you were exposed to in the US to better systems in India, not only for people with disability, but even for the general population. Wonderful speaking with you, Apoorv. Thank you so much for giving me the time.
Thank you, George.
Eyeway, ये है रोशनी का कारवां.
This podcast was brought to you by Barrier Break Solutions Private Limited and Score Foundation.
ये है रोशनी का कारवां.